So now the stage is all set up. Please join me in welcoming all the panelists that came in today. So first, Emily is the current FTC Operations Manager for First in Texas. She started on an FTC team in the 2013 to 2014 season block party. Over the years, she has worn many hats as North Texas Assistant Program Coordinator, Volunteer Coordinator, Head Referee, and so much more. Please join me in welcoming Emily to the stage. Wonderful. So next, we have Coach Anya McCarthy. Team 20313 Mustang Robotics is the official First Tech Challenge competition team for Grapevine High School. Founded in 2021, they've made significant strides over the last 2 years, winning multiple awards and taking home the bronze medal for the 2023 UIL State Championship. With their new head coach, Anya McCarthy, guiding with the Mustangs, they hope to stampede to center stage success. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage. Great. So next we have Sophie from Team 7172. A senior going into her 6th year of FTC. Please welcome the team captain of 7172 Technical Difficulties, Sophie. In the power play season at the World Championship, 7172 accomplished with being the OCOA Division Finalist Alliance Captain and the Innovate Award winner for their division. Okay. Next, we have Olivia from Team 20313. She is a senior at Grapevine High School and is the current captain of her FTC team. Last year, she was a captain for state champion girls varsity soccer team, as well as a captain for the pilot for the Bell AVR drone competition team. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage. Next, we have Sophie from Team 8565. Sophie is a rising freshman at the Hockaday School and is a current member of 8565 who has had 4 years of FLL and 2 years of FTC experience. Other than robotics, she enjoys reading, writing, and singing. Okay, so now that we've introduced the in-person panelists, now we'll move on to the online panelists. So as you see here on the screen, we have Melody and Amelia joining us from online. So firstly, Amelia Weiler is a 2023 alumni from FTC team 18438 Wolfpack Machina. She has spent the past 7 years in the FIRST programs and is the founder of the nonprofit organization STEM Inspires, which has started 35 FLL teams in Rwanda this past year. Next, we have Melody, an alumni from 8565. Melody is a freshman at UC Berkeley studying business and EECS under the MET program. She was a team captain for 8565 Country Thoughts and participated in FIRST for 11 years. And lastly, hello, I'm Jessica Bull, the Outreach and Marketing Lead for 8565 Country Thoughts, as well as a host for today's Women in FIRST panel. I'm currently a rising sophomore, and this upcoming year will be my 5th year in FIRST and my 4th year at FTC. So our very first question to start this panel off will be to Melody, Emily, one of the panelists today. Emily, what has your experience been through participating in FIRST and later working for this program?
Thank you. Can you all hear me good? Okay, there we go. Hi, so I started on an FTC team in 2013. I was on the team for about 2 years. Sorry for the delay. The echo is really getting to me right now. Okay, that sounds better. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I started in 2013 on a team. I actually started in my junior year. I moved from my hometown. I grew up in Anna, Texas, which at the time was a really small school for about 100 people in my graduating class. And I moved to Wiley, Texas in my junior year after my parents got divorced, which was a really weird time to move away from your hometown. If y'all have ever moved in high school, I'm sure y'all know that it's just kind of a very uncomfortable experience. I didn't have a lot of friends. My parents were getting divorced and I was just having a really hard time. I saw an advertisement in December of my junior year for a robotics team. And I kind of thought, that might be a really interesting way to get friends. I had done some best robotics at my previous school. And so I was really excited at the opportunity. The team was freshly starting, so I actually got to escalate immediately to being president of the team, which was kind of a huge step from where I had come from best. And best, I wasn't allowed to touch anything. I was a really clumsy student my freshman year. I was not allowed to have like any involvement in anything. So going to president was kind of this really exciting experience because for the first time I got to actually touch a robot and kind of help be a part of the building process. And I just fell in love with everything about it. It gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me a lot of just experience and leadership that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten in a lot of the things that I was doing. And so I sort of went through this struggle my senior year where I thought it was really unfair that I had just found this amazing thing in my life right as I was about to graduate and never be able to do it again. I hated that so much. I spent my entire last 3 months of senior year really upset that I was leaving first. And because we were a rookie team, I didn't really know how to get involved in first. I tried mentoring my freshman year of college and I never really liked it that much. I think it can be a really valid thing for a lot of people. I just didn't feel confident in my own experience to really be able to add value to the team as a mentor. And so actually what ended up happening was my freshman year of college, my high school ended up hosting an FTC event kind of last second. And through that, I got introduced to the lens of volunteering for events. And I never stopped. I did one event that first year. The next year I did 3. The year after that, I did 5. And it all sort of culminated into me going to Patrick Michaud, who was our program delivery partner in the area at the time. I was just about to transfer to UT Dallas from Collin College, and Patrick was working out of UT Dallas. And I sent him an email in August and I said, I really want to work for you. Can I work for you? Do you have a role I could come do as a student? And he actually did have an opening and he took a chance and hired me. And so I went from doing 5 competitions in the Velocity Vortex season, or the Relic Recovery season, to 30 competitions that next year. And it was FRC, FTC, I went to Worlds, I traveled everywhere, and it became this really exciting experience in my life, getting to see this inner working of the competitions, and it was something I really fell in love with. I ended up going to, I told a lot of people at the time, my dream was to be Patrick someday. I didn't know how I was going to be Patrick someday, but I knew I wanted to be Patrick someday. But unfortunately, in my senior year at the University of Texas at Dallas, COVID happened. And when COVID happened, they dissolved the department Patrick and I were working out of. And so they had actually lined up, were going to offer me a full-time job. I was going to get to do this whole robotics running thing, which I thought was so cool. And it just kind of fell flat on its face. And I got really lucky, actually, that Rev Robotics I had worked with them several times before. They decided to extend me a job offer. They had an opening that they thought I'd be aligned to. And after college, I got to spend some time writing FTC documentation. How many of y'all have used docs.revrobotics.com? I generated a whole bunch of the content for that when I started there. I wrote their whole programming documentation and all of that stuff. And I stayed at Rev for about a year and a half. But one of the weird things that happened during COVID is everyone who was an older adult in the first world went through the worst burnout. Everyone I knew was at the point of quitting first. That's how burnt out they were from all of the years they had been doing. And that's such a weird position to be in when you're young and fresh out of college and trying to find your path, and you're looking at everyone around you who are just done with the program and you're going, oh, did I make the wrong choice? Do I need to get out of here? So I struggled with that for a little bit. I actually ended up leaving Rev after about a year and a half and going to work in an IT. My degree was in information technology, so I worked for an IT firm for a while. Telling myself I was going to pull back and see how I felt about robotics. But for those of you who were there in great frenzy, you know that I did not pull back. that I did all of the competitions every weekend in Freight Frenzy, or I was emailing ahead of time. And I took a long time to really think through what this program meant to me and what I wanted to do. I was just really burnt out and I was having a really hard time. And the conclusion I came to was that I still really wanted to be Patrick one day. So I first went to Lon and told him, hey, I want to be your assistant. I want to help you run this on a higher scale. I want to develop these events. And then I did that through this power play season. And at the end of the power play season, I knew that I wanted to do even more. So I took my resume. I showed up at a week 1 FRC event. I walked into the back office where the executive director of FLYSET Texas was sitting, and I put my resume down on the table and I said, I know you're looking for an FTC operations manager and I want to be your girl. And I got hired for FLYSET Texas an hour later. So that's been my journey. It's been a really crazy and interesting one for sure.
All the experiences that you have, like listening to them, going throughout the programs, all that development and stuff, how do you think that shapes you?
It shaped me in a lot of different ways. Like I said, this was like a really big journey for me to come to the end conclusion. And I don't want to say anything that'll like upset parents in the room, but like obviously when I graduated from an FTC team, I thought I was going to do engineering. I signed up for biomedical, and my very first semester, I had a pre-calculus teacher who was trying to teach us calculus 4 and telling us if we didn't pass this pre-calculus class at Collin College of all places, that we should give up on STEM entirely. And that had a really negative effect on me because I was not very good at calculus and being taught like there's a math lab at a lot of colleges that you can go get help at. The math lab at Collin College couldn't help us. That's how high level problems we were being delivered, and then told if we couldn't do it that we might as well give up. And that's such a terrible first year experience to have. And so I did give up for a while. I started focusing on majoring in business, and I started focusing on this other side of my explorations and things like that. And, you know, ultimately I ended up back in IT, but I left IT to come do nonprofit. And I think the impact that FLYSET has had on me is that your journey is not always linear. Your journey is not always what you expect it to be. You can go into school and think you're going to do one thing and come out the other side with a completely different degree than you expected going to school for. It's not a linear journey, and there are so many challenges and changes on the way that are going to change your perspective of what you should and should not be doing. And I think just embrace those changes. You could hear from my story that basically every other year I have changed jobs and done different things because I've really just been trying to explore what brings me value and what I enjoyed in my life. And at the end of the day, the thing that I found the most important was being able to make changes that positively impacted and gave opportunities to people like y'all who are in the program that may have gone through the same experiences that I went through or similar experiences. And that return on investment, knowing that I've gotten to have this impact on the way that the programs are delivered to you, is more meaningful to me than anything else in this world. So definitely a big impact.
Now move on to a little more personal questions in order to get to know Alice a little more. So, Anya McCarthy, we have a question for you. As a FLYSET coach in the panel today, how has your perspective developed or changed throughout the years, and what is the experience for the all-girls team at Bristol School?
Oh wow. So being a coach for FGC when I first started, it was, you know, everything was a lot of stuff coming at you because you're learning the program and everything. Sorry, those being on. So afterwards, feeling more comfortable, I started to see like a little bit of underrepresentation for girls in first. And luckily at our school, we had a lot of kids that wanted to try out. And since we could only have 15 people on the team, we had enough members that we could actually have a boys team and an all girls team. And so it was very interesting being in the classroom because the boys team was also our like we were brother and sister teams. Okay. Brother and sister teams. And so we could see like it was very different in how, you know, we worked together well and helped each other out. But it was interesting to see like how the boys team approached a problem versus the girls team. And so it's kind of a learning experience and why, you know, we should have more integration of girls into STEM because it's all about different perspectives and things like that. And I cannot remember the other half of your question. I'm sorry.
The other half of the question was, how is your perspective developing since starting this?
I'd have to say I've probably become more fierce and promoting having more representation in STEM and in FIRST, to points where I've started like Girls Coding Club. We branched out and put on made extra teams and mentored and coached extra teams, because as you guys know, FTC is very time consuming. And when you add another team, a second team, or a third team, it's a lot more time that we're devoting. But I just found that the more I'm doing, the more passionate I'm getting about it. And I just want to see that representation. I want, younger girls to see that, hey, there is a coach that looks like me that is, doing FIRST, doing robotics, doing engineering. So I like that.
Thank you so much. So to Amelia and Melody, what has the experience been with growing up in the programs as FLL, FTC, and how has it changed?
Can you guys hear me? Can you? I'll take that as a yes. Okay. Okay, cool. So what has my experience been in FTC? I think that was the first part of the question, or FL to FTC. I think so. For me, I ended up starting when I was like 10 years old in my garage with some of my neighborhood friends. And from there, I ended up like at my school, there was no FTC. And my grade had an insane number of talented like STEM interested students. And so I think all of us, we kind of talked about it beforehand. We started the first FLL team at our school. And from there, just kept on growing. And we became, after FLL, became an FTC team. We went to Worlds many times. We just won the World Championships. It was a phenomenal experience. And I think what it really taught me was that the FLL
Yeah, and then like we just found like a whole bunch of gold and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, yeah, so I think FLL just taught me that it's actually a really important stepping stone, I think, for kind of engineering in general. And I guess I thought about it before as like, oh, it's kind of this younger version, but it's actually super helpful. And I think the way that FIRST sets it up is having like FLL, FTC, and then FIRST, if you ever get the chance to do that, is actually a really powerful program because it offers a ton of experience through like each level. So I think I was really fortunate to be able to do FLL and FTC. I think it offered a ton of important skills for my STEM future, which was really, I think, awesome.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, so I started first in the second grade. I started with, it used to be called FLL Junior. So I started with FLL Junior, and then I went into FLL Challenge, and then I ended in FTC. And I think that each step and each kind of level of program of FIRST, I learned so many different things. When you start out like younger, you're obviously, I think, focused on different things as when you're in FTC. So in FL Junior, a lot of what we did was more like core values based and kind of project and creativity based. And so I think those skills that I had even in like the second or the third grade are still skills that I use now. And same thing with an FL Challenge, where you kind of move on to more competitive robotics and you're actually building robots now that have, little challenges and missions to do. But I think when I moved into FTC, I think that's when I really found what I wanted to do in the STEM sphere, which is kind of this business or outreach side of technology, which is something that I'm really interested in and I hope to kind of make into my career. But I think I'm really lucky to gain a lot of experiences from FIRST, whether that's people that you meet just in your region or getting to, compete at a higher level, like at Worlds, or we were lucky enough to go to First Global for 2 years. I think those experiences are ones that I'll definitely carry with me into the future. And I've learned a lot of things from those experiences.
Okay. I think my leadership style, at least what I think it is, I try to push my team members and the people around me to be the best that they can be. Because everybody has their specific niche, like we have really good programmers, we have really good people on the mechanical side, we have great outreach people, and we work in this efficiently and succeed the furthest we can when everybody is the best in their area of activity. So I try to make sure that everybody gets up to what they think their best level is. And also, I think leadership, especially with women, can be really, really difficult. I think we walk the very fine line of being too gentle and not getting anything done, or too far. Yeah.
Not other Sophie.
So, and you go too far and you're too far. That's a fine line you gotta walk. But I think for my team, I try to just make sure that everybody can be and tries to be the best that they can.
So now to Olivia, with all the leadership roles that you currently hold for your ecstasy, soccer, and your competition, what takeaways have you gotten from these experiences?
Great, thank you. So I'll answer like the biggest takeaway that I think I've gathered, and that would be like note taking. Always having a note taking apparatus with you at all times, because I found that by being involved in multiple different things, you kind of have to manage your time really well. And so for people that know me, they know that I have like a running notes on my iPhone. They know I have a physical planner, thousands of sticky notes in my room. I have the Google and Apple Calendar, what have you. And you might not be that crazy or need to be that redundant to be organized, but I found that by limiting the barriers to productivity, I'm more likely to use smaller moments to do a task. If I'm in my planner or on my computer, I'm more likely to use my time more wisely. That being said, I've also found that like the actual motion of writing down what you have to do allows you to remember that task and you're more likely to do it without the aid of a list. And I've also found that it allows me to be more focused when I'm locked in on one thing, because I might have anxiety about something else that I need to do for another commitment. But by writing it down on a sticky note and then leaving it for later when I can address the issue more properly, I found that I've been able to maximize my time and be much more efficient. So I think in summary, you don't have to be that crazy and have that many lists, but writing down what you have to do and managing your time allows you to get the most out of what you're investing your time into in the first place, and allows you to give the most to the people around you.
Thank you so much. And now to Sophie from 856. How did you first get introduced to robotics?
So my journey in robotics started when I was in 4th grade. So I joined an FLL team in ACP Yang. I still remember the name and the number. And that summer I went to the 8565 yearly FLL summer camp. And there I think is really when I found that I had an interest in robotics. So in 4th grade, I was not a very motivated child. Like I did not do much in my free time. So my mom was really amazed when the coach went and said that I was like actually doing things in the camp. Like I remember especially the sumo wrestling challenge. That was very fun. Like I would have won if I didn't get disqualified. But anyways, another thing I think that really motivated me was seeing like girls in the team 8565, Melody especially. My mom will remember me saying that Melody was very cool in the camp. And I think that also really inspired me as a girl to join robotics because I was the only girl in my FLL team when I first started.
Thank you so much. Now we're moving towards more general questions. So how has seeing a woman in STEM, woman in first impacted you? Emily, do you want to take this away?
Yeah, I will. All right, so actually, I think there's several women on this stage that have like personally impacted my experience at first. So I talked a little bit earlier about having burnout. Raise your hand if you've experienced being so stressed that you just need a break. Right, we've all had burnout, right? And how do you get through it? I can tell you right now, the answer is not to continue to do 30 robotics competitions a year. But one of the things that I learned, because even though I was going through all this stress and burnout and needed a break, and I never felt like I could take a break with robotics, I never wanted to put robotics in the back seat. I've always really tried to celebrate the little wins. So one example of a time that really impacted me was at a super qualifier in the Freight Frenzy season. I had been doing too many competitions. I was really exhausted from the day. We're packing up to leave. And this all girls team from Flower Mound High School comes up to me, the entire team, every single one of them. And it was their last competition for the season. They had lost, they weren't going to advance on. And they all came up to me and thanked me for being representation in the program. Just a couple weeks after that, I received an email from Melody. I interviewed Melody for her Dean's List Award when she came up from the region. And when we interviewed Melody, we paused after her interview as an interview panel. Me and the other interviewer had been doing it for years. And we both agreed that she was one of the most amazing candidates we had ever seen come through our interview process. And when we knew she was going to win. I mean, just flat out, there was no contestation that Melody was going to win at Worlds. We were so confident in her capabilities. And I got an email 3 days after Worlds from Melody thanking me. And I think like just even that moment, or I've had conversations with Sophie that have been really meaningful. It's that knowledge that at the end of the day, it matters that I'm there. Even if I'm tired, and I'm stressed out and I'm exhausted, just showing up to the competition matters. And that's why I do what I do. And I think that's been the biggest impact of being a woman, is knowing that I'm here to be the representation for all of you.
Thank you so much. So the next question we have is what sparked the interest in first for STEM in general? Amelia, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So what sparked my interest in it? I think it was just you're turning robotics into a competitive sport. Anyone who's interested in competition and thinks that STEM is kind of where it's going I think will be motivated and interested to join FLL, to join FTC. I think it is a little bit self-evident that, oh yeah, there's a really cool sort of sports-like robotics competition. I think I was just attracted to that. And also I think the people as well, the reason I stuck with it for so long, I think is just the group of people, like my team, was so amazing. And so once you start, it's hard to stop because you realize, oh, the FTC community, the FLL community, it becomes more of like kind of like a family in a way, which is so sweet. And I think I really like it sparked, like the competition sparked and the robotics sparked it. But I think what kept me there was everyone who was involved with it.
Yeah, so for me, I think that there's definitely a lot of kind of points in my first career where I got more and more interested in it. I think one kind of theme though is that the more I got involved, the more I liked it, and I think my passion grew. But I remember I think I was in third grade, we were in FL Junior. And we were able to go to the World Championships, which was in St. Louis at the time. And we were able to walk around and see all of the FTC and FRC robots, as well as they have like always a lot of companies at the World Championships. And I think that for me, like when I was so young, was super inspiring just to see all of the big robots and the older kids competing. And then when I got older and you get to go to these high level competitions and meet such amazing teams and amazing people in first and just on other teams, I think that's also really, really inspiring. And that's definitely what got me interested in first.
There we go.
I had someone recently tell me that while it's good to do diversity data, that you don't always have to do data, you just have to look at the room, right? So look around the room right now and take note of the fact that there's a smaller percentage of women than there are men in the room. Right? We all know that this is a natural thing in the sim world right now, right? That we're starting to break those barriers and things like that. But one of the biggest points of entry is just the lack of representation. Another example I'll give is how many drive teams at the World Championship that made it into the finals had girls as the drivers? Do you know? How many, Sophie?
I don't know, but one.
The only one that I really could say that there was a driver, like there were plenty of girls that were coaches on the team, but Sophie was one of the only drivers at the World Championship finals that were women on her team, right? And I think that just shows that we still have such a bigger divide to gap, which is just making sure that we have that representation there. Girls are more confident knowing that there's a Sophie out there who's driving it. It raises their ability or their confidence in themselves to say, hey, maybe I could be a driver too. And the same thing goes for like just the representation you have on your own team, right? I think a lot of girls, the joke in the community, right, is that a lot of us end up on the business notebook side of the house, and and that's part of the barrier we see. So I would say just don't be afraid to be confident and to take on a new role. You never know who you're going to inspire to come into that position after you. And I think that that's how we continue to break down the barrier, is just being the representation for the girls that come after us.
Well said. Okay, so the next question is, what are some ways that women in STEM can support each other? So if you want to start us off with this.
I think one big thing is just advocacy. And I think Emily said it really well. Setting an example and being able to advocate for yourself strongly and letting a generation of girls below you learn from that and see that as the norm. And also when you see somebody getting walked over, to help them advocate for themselves when they don't really know how to yet. I think that's the biggest thing I can think of.
Thank you. Emily, do you want to add more on that?
Yeah, I agree with Sophie on that. It's about just advocating for each other. Sophie is one of the biggest self-advocates I know. The joke in our community, and this goes all the way up to the World Championship level, is every single match 7172 plays, Sophie will be in the question box right after it. She is always there. I came up to her at Worlds this year and she had a little tiara on her head and she was sitting in a chair next to the question box and she said, yeah, they gave me my own throne here. But it's important to have that advocacy for yourself. I mean, that's such a big thing that we push in this program. That's why things like the question box exist, not even just for the women here, but everyone here, to be able to come in and advocate for yourself in moments that you're confused or not sure about the results. And I think that that's just the thing that we have to do to support each other, is to advocate for each other, to hear each other out and to listen to each other's problems and, be a sounding board for how your experiences in the program as a woman are, and helping someone else find that guidance in the program. I think it's just the best way is just being there. I think, again, to reiterate, representation, just being there in the room at all matters. And that's something that's kept me tethered so hard to this program, is just knowing that being in the room for all of you is what matters the most.
Thank you. So I think that's about it for the women's first panel discussion. So let's have a big round of applause for all the panelists.
Thank you so much for being with us.